And then after I'd done a TV show called Agent X with Sharon Stone, she asked me to teach. And I jumped at the opportunity because I'd absorbed all of this wisdom, the secrets of how to do this in a way that was healthy, that was fun, that got the best results. And so I started teaching and I just loved it. I meet a young girl. She's never cried on cue before. I teach her the process, and within an hour, she's crying on cue and going, "Oh my gosh, you're a miracle worker."
Hello and welcome to Ego is Here. Today I'm joined by actress, writer, and coach Carolyn Stotesbery, sharing her journey through Hollywood and beyond.
Thank you for
Hello, Caroline.
Hello, Anna. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Caroline, you, you do so many things. You're a writer, an acting coach, an actress. What first drew you to acting as a child?
When I was really young, I started doing plays and stuff like that, and it was just really the fun of storytelling, And then I
Mhm.
got an opportunity to come to LA and go out for pilot season. I didn't even know what that
Mhm.
was. I thought I was flying planes or something. I didn't know, Um, and I booked my first TV show within 2 weeks of being here. I was so fresh off the boat, and it was so much fun. I was an MTV show that we shot. I was 15 years old, and then after that, I started to audition, and
Mhm.
it started to become not as fun auditioning.
Uh,
I was, you know, left kind of confused, and so I went on a mission I'd kind of lost that spark that I
yes.
actually had when I was a child. And it became a lot about, me as an actor and a person. It just didn't feel good, icky. So I went on a mission to find, the person who had the secrets, who knew what this was really about, how to make it fulfilling, how to make it fun again. And
Hmm.
it took me 10 years. I studied with
Wow.
almost every acting coach in the city, and some came close, but I found a mentor. And when I felt like she had it resonated with me, like, okay, this is something special. I studied with her for 10 years. And that's when I did the bulk of my acting work and transitioned into writing. And then after I'd done a TV show called Agent X with Sharon Stone, she asked me to teach. And I jumped at the opportunity because I'd absorbed all of this wisdom, the secrets of how to do this in a way that was healthy, that was fun, that got the best results. And so I started teaching and I just loved it. I loved seeing people transform and their potential
Mhm.
come out. And then I started to, kind of develop things in a way that were a little bit more clear, a process that was a little more clear than my mentors. I feel like some acting coaches kind of either they don't really know what they're saying. And sometimes when they say it, it can come out in a way that maybe confuses the actor, you know?
Yes,
Like,
yes. I had that experience as an actress.
yeah,
Yeah.
be more
When I was
present.
more cool. Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
what does that mean, be more present?
Mhm.
Like we got to break this stuff down into applicable tools that really help people thrive. And so I started to teach about a year and a half ago, and I've taught, I think, like thousands of actors in the past year and a half from the age 9 to 65 years old. And
Wow, it's unbelievable.
just
Mm.
seeing the swath of how to deal with kids versus teens versus adults, and just really giving them a process that works for them, that gets them the results that they want. So that's been my goal.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as an actress, tell me, because acting often involves, stepping into someone else's shoes, as we say. Has it ever changed the way you see yourself?
Wow, that's a great question. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that when you Meryl Streep always said when she played Sophie's Choice, which
Hmm.
is a movie where she had to decide between her son or her daughter, to keep her son or her daughter before she went to the concentration camp. They said, "Did you use your own kids?" And she said, "God, no, I did not. But when I went home to put my children to sleep, I put them to bed with more care and more
Hmm.
awareness than I ever had before." And I think that's really the true power of story, is that it's the empathy, it's the compassion, I come
Exactly. The things that you take for granted sometimes, and when you step into someone else's shoes, you realize things about yourself that you weren't aware,
yeah,
right?
you're grateful for things in your
Mhm.
own life. And then I think you also have an experience where you understand other people more as well and have compassion and more interest in other people's stories.
Of
And
course.
yeah, because storytelling really is about creating community and catharsis.
Mhm.
And the community is you watch a TV or a film and you go, "Oh my gosh, that's my life." Or that happened to me and I feel less alone.
Mhm.
Or
Mhm.
you watch a comedy, you go, "Oh my gosh, that's so like my husband." And you just
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that laugh is reduces our cortisol
Mm.
or our tears. That's the catharsis that storytelling really does.
Yes. Carolyn, what sacrifices did you make early on to pursue your acting dreams?
That's also, yeah, I mean,
'Cause we never talk about, the sacrifices someone makes in order to
yeah.
succeed what he loves.
Yeah, I mean, I moved to LA when I was 15, so I finished high school online, and then I, didn't really have a lot of the experiences that normal kids necessarily have, and that leading into like even, being in LA and auditioning is just, it does take up a lot of time studying, becoming an expert in something. It takes
Or
up a lot of time, so you have to say no, and that is the sacrifice that you make, whether it's to friends or, to the event that you wanna go to, but really just prioritizing,
yes.
what is
Yes.
your mission and goal. So,
Mm. And when did you step into the fashion industry?
gosh, the whole reason that I came to LA was because of modeling. When I was 15 years old, my mom took me to a contest at the Mall of America. And I was picked 1 out of 400 girls to be the face of beauty in the Midwest, and that was kind of how my whole life changed. It was wild, and I started modeling, and then I mean, I didn't really expect to go down that route, and then came to LA. I mean, I always say what to my clients, like, if you're experiencing it, I've probably done it. Like, indie films, studio films, every commercial, fashion week. I mean, I love fashion. I actually worked with BCBG for a very, very long time. Lots of different I was in Italian Vogue with Ellen von Unworth. I mean, just lots of incredible experiences. Yeah, I love the fashion industry, obviously.
And what is one misconception about the fashion industry that people don't realize until they're inside it?
I mean, I think that I think that there's a misconception both with modeling and acting, maybe a little bit different. I would say with modeling, the misconception is that it's all glitz and glam and, that it's a lot of work and you're usually either too hot or too cold. you know,
Yes.
you're uncomfortable. The uncomfortableness, the long hours,
The
the
levels. Mhm.
screen, it's a lot of work. I think that a lot of people find that when they look at the Kardashians, is, oh, wow, they have it all. And then when you pull away the spotlight, there's just so much more there, right?
Of
It's
course.
and you have to. I see this with a lot of social media influencers as well. It's like you get on that hamster wheel, and it's like you got to keep it going and going and going. And some people can, you can get burned out. And I think with acting, sometimes, I have Betty White said it really well. She said, "Do you want to be an actor or do you want to be a celebrity? Because they're two different things." And sometimes actors come to me, and when I break down what it really entails, they're like, oh, they didn't think it was, sitting in a room alone with a story. They didn't think it was that. So that's kind of,
Of course. Can you share a vulnerable moment in your career that taught you something profound?
mm, fulfill my career. I will say one is that I was on set of the movie called Gray Lady, and it was an indie film on Nantucket. It was beautiful. It was Eric Dane from Euphoria. He's amazing. It was amazing cast, but it was like really long days and it was a lot of tiresome work. And I remember I called my acting mentor and I was like, this is just like, I'm going a little,
Yeah.
I've had like, and she reminded me, she said, you're playing a psychopath. So let it influence you. And so in that moment,
Yes.
I was kind of, you know, starting to be frustrated with the process and everything. I learned how to
Yes.
funnel that back into the story. I want to do a whole, section of like what it is to be on set and the challenges that happen on set between all the personalities and the crew and really all the technical aspects of being on set. I don't think that a lot of actors are, guided and prepared for that. Leading all the way up to the red carpet. I remember when we had the premiere for Agent X, my dress came and they pulled it out of the bag and all the beading had been ruined at the dry cleaner.
Oh,
So the dress was done. So but they were like, Sharon Stone's on the red carpet. You need to go down and get on the red. So they're sewing me into the dress, like before I walk down. And I'm walking down, and I hit the red carpet. And the first interviewer asks me about the dress and the show. And I give this amazing long story about, everything. And then I hit the next reporter and they ask the same question. And I didn't know that I would have to go down and share this
yes.
story
Uh-huh.
over and
Again
over.
and again.
Yes,
Mhm.
in different ways to different people, to different outlets. So just to give actors that guidance beforehand and all that.
It's
That's
important. Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Of course. So you were saying about the reasons that people that want to follow acting choose this profession. Like, what do you think that drives them the most? Is it fame? Is it expression? Connection?
mm, yeah. I mean, I think all of those it kind of varies person to person, you know. Obviously it's usually I find it's usually a mixture. As much as like someone might want fame, they might be secretly seeking something else, you know.
Validation, for example, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you said in one of your things about like being heard, being seen. And
Being
I
seen.
think there is sometimes that operating, but really getting my clients to hear and see themselves first and really
Hmm.
giving them the tools. Like everyone has a process, right? Like a painter has to get the paint on the canvas and they go through a process to do that. Or like a house builder, like they have to lay the foundation, but if they don't know the steps, they can get very confused in what they're there to do. Most actors don't know what they're being asked to do, and how to feel
Mhm.
that. And that can leave them in a very disempowered space, along with all these desires for connection, being seen, fame, all of that, right? I usually try to get away from the actor brain, I call it, and get into the story. I always tell my clients it's not about you, it's about the story.
Mhm.
Storyteller. You're here to tell a story. And the more that you focus on that, the better off you'll be. Because nobody wants to watch an actor acting. We
Of
want to
course.
watch a
Yes.
human being going through an experience that impacts them. And the more that
Exactly.
we can focus on that, all of the other actor concerns drift away. So the story really solves a lot of those problems. And so I give my actors a very clear process of how to go about that, make it very clear what they're there to do, very clear how to do what they're there to do, how to think about what they're there to do, so that
Mhm.
they're empowered with that process. And then within that, they can have their own essence, their own creativity. And sometimes when I'm working with my clients, they kind of I share this all with them, and it's a lot of information that new, and they usually say, "Oh my gosh, this makes so much sense." Like, wow,
Yes.
they just have this light bulb moment, like, "Of course. Why didn't somebody just explain this to me before?" And so I'm actually creating an online course right now where they can go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to, remind themselves of the process and be able to use these tools whenever they need them for self tapes, for auditions, on set, so that they're never
Mhm.
confused.
Of course. Of course. Yeah. So you also support them emotionally and psychologically because there's no other way to help an actor express
Yeah.
himself, isn't that right?
Yeah. And you asked about vulnerability, which, I had a very lovely young Latino girl, tough, tough cookie. And I had to talk about how being out in the world, she necessarily wasn't safe to be vulnerable, right? You don't walk out into the world and stick your hand out to a snake and let it bite you. You have discernment, you
Exactly.
protect yourself. But in the world of story, you are safe. You're safe
Right.
to allow yourself to be impacted on and go through something. And within 30 minutes, she was crying on cue. So this has happened time and time again with me recently where I meet a young girl, she's never cried on cue before. I teach her the process, and within an hour, she's crying on cue and going, "Oh my gosh, you're a miracle worker." And then from there, I support them. I continue with my Latino client. She's, going deeper and deeper and getting better and better. And it's really exciting to see. I also have another client who just came to me and she said, I just had a plastic surgery and yes, I want to learn acting, but also I'm starting to want to do like more and I need your help like feeling beautiful inside and not feeling like I need to, do all these things to be beautiful. So we're actually kind of going down more of that road with her of like how do you, develop yourself and what you want in an authentic, way that's not some fake persona you're putting on. Because she
Yeah.
referenced Marilyn Monroe. And I was like, yeah, but Marilyn Monroe went home and she was there was a complete disconnect between who Marilyn Monroe was and who the actual
Mhm.
woman
Mhm.
was. We want to close that gap for people so that, it's authentic. And the question is giving somebody a form, process of how to go about that.
Well, it's a very competitive industry and there's a lot of the rejection. So
Mhm.
how do you help your students to manage rejection? Because it's hard to hear all those no's. Like for me, it was really hard because I always thought it was personal. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't beautiful enough. So because I think that's the hardest part
Yeah,
of this industry.
absolutely. I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't think, I mean, we're human beings. They say an actor has to have the heart of a baby and the hide of a rhino, right? And
Yes.
sometimes I give them tools like, don't go to book just the project, go to book the casting director, right? When you go
Mhm.
for an
Interesting.
opportunity, yeah, you're not just going in for that one opportunity. There's a
Mhm.
bigger thing at work here. The director's going to see that. I actually had a 9-year-old girl who called me, and she had an 11-page callback where she recounts her mother being murdered. And I was like, first of all, okay, you can't
Well,
use you can't use the method with that kind of a situation. That would
no, no.
be not healthy for the little girl. So I used my method, my process, and she was incredible. And she went in, and she was too young for the part. They wanted like a 12-year-old, but she was so good, they booked her for their next film.
Mm.
So it's
Yes.
like I always try to give them a bigger picture. Like sometimes I've shepherded actors through like an agent showcase, right? And so they're wanting to get an agent really bad, which of course is a part of what I would say like the industry career strategy. I deal a lot with career strategy. I do career strategy coaching because a lot of acting coaches, they just deal with the craft. And then the actor's like, well, what about my career? So
Exactly, exactly.
I'm like, if a tree falls in the wood and, does anyone does anyone hear it? No, we have to it matters. So I do both. I make sure that I'm attending to the career and that progress with their custom goals, what they want,
Mhm.
and then also with the craft. And so, as I'm shepherding them through the agent showcase, I'm also talking with them about the long-term career.
'Cause that's the most important, yeah.
Yes,
To
and I deal with that a lot where it's like, the way that actors work with memorization, rehearsing, how to play it, how to say it, how to feel it, that's not gonna get you a long-term career.
Mm.
It might get you one role, but Meryl Streep is gonna eat you alive if you're just memorizing and rehearsing.
Yes.
So it's fine for now, but let's set you up for the long-term career.
Mhm. Carolyn, what's the most common mental block you see in actors, and how do you address it?
The most common well, I mean, honestly, the most common mental block that I see in actors is that they think of it as a character, as a she or he. Like, I
Mhm.
I wanna build this character, right? And I'm like, "Who's the
What
character?"
we taught as well,
Yeah,
that we have to build the character.
yeah. I say, "Who's the character?" It's only you up there. It's you in this imaginary it's like when you put the VR glasses on
Mhm.
and you're on
Mhm.
Mars and you're like, "Oh, there's my spaceship. Oh, there's an alien. Boop boop." Right? You're in the situation, right? So I
Yes.
immediately close the gap between a character and I. It's like little kids. I'm Elsa, you're Anna. There's never a she or a he or a character. Now we have to ask ourselves, what is character? Usually, character is a lot of like what's happened to us, right? And what we
Exactly, yes. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
what we think about what's gonna happen to us, what we did about what's gonna happen to us. So I help them create that from the I am rather than
Mm.
a character. So therefore, it all happened to them in
Yeah.
their, you know, alternative reality. So that's the biggest mental shift that gets the biggest result when they play pretend.
Mhm. Mhm. Can acting coaching also help actors grow personally?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because just like with, the
Because
whole
it's not always about the craft, right?
yeah,
It's also about you growing your emotions, your perception, and
yeah. I always say if you wanna, be interesting, get interested. And that is when you start to go into the world of story, you start to learn something new. Like, for example, I was working on it was like a Grey's Anatomy story with a client, and I had to really break it down. Like, people come into this hospital and you cut them open and they
Mhm.
die on that bed in front of you, or they leave and you've saved their life. Like, when you really take that in,
Of
you
course.
you never look at a doctor the same.
No, 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 no.
So it's like really bringing these things very real for yourselves. That's what changes you. You go, "Oh my gosh, I never really thought about how they truly save lives, that their career is to save lives," you know?
But we always bring ourselves in the character, right? Because I mean, it's difficult not to,
Yes.
don't
Well,
you
I
think?
mean, everyone has an essence, right? So when I work with a client, I really start to get to know their essence. I think, well, it's nature and nurture. So the nature part of it is like I know you were born into this world with a certain essence that's really never going to change. It's that spirit when you see a baby and you
Yeah.
go, oh, like there they are. They're so unique, one of a kind snowflake. And so I always say, like if one person plays pretend and another person's plays pretend, it's like flowers in a flower shop. A tulip is not a rose. A rose is not a sunflower. A sunflower
Mhm.
is not a lily. Just because somebody picked the rose, the lily does not wilt. The lily still is the lily, and the lily may be picked tomorrow. So it's really that essence
Nice. Yeah, that's true. Mm.
that's then put into, let's take that lily and we're going to make it, the best lily it can be.
Yeah. Yeah. Our uniqueness, I think, is it's a tool we always have to use, like, because we always want to look like somebody else, you know.
Mm.
Um, but the truth is that our uniqueness is the most important thing we have.
Yeah, it's like more of you, more of that. Yes.
Yeah.
It's also about, I deal with my clients a lot with like owning all parts of yourself. Instead of calling it a role, I call it a part. This is a part. It's a part of you.
Because we have so many parts
So many
inside.
parts. Walt Whitman said, "Do I contradict myself? Yes. Within me, I contain multitudes."
Mhm.
It's also a really great commercial with Kate Winslet where she says, "I've died 15 times, I've divorced 3, I've killed 7." She says all these different parts of herself.
Yes.
So, like, when you start to tap into, like, okay, there's nothing in you that's not in me, and there's nothing in me that's not in you, like this bigger part humanity, I think
Mhm.
then
This connection.
you start
Mhm.
to own that. And when you own all the parts of yourself, that brings charisma because you're comfortable. Even there's a book called No Bad Parts, you know? I think that's what comedy kind of brings to the table is like, oh,
Yes, yes.
that's like me, and you own it and laugh about it. And we all have these little foibles and things we're working on and we're a work in progress. It's all of that, like, kind of compassion for ourselves and going like, okay, yeah, I'm still doing that, working on it. And it's funny and I own it. And, you know, but I always say your repression is your obsession and the thing you
Mm.
is your possession.
Yes, yes.
We don't want to repress any parts of ourselves. This comes up a lot with guys because guys are often asked to express rage in stories. And a lot of men, they're like, they don't want to be scary. And so they're kind of
Mhm.
repressing that part and really allowing themselves to go, okay, just experience it in this story. And then it won't be like this thing that's running you, this forbidden
Yes,
part of yourself.
yes. It's
And
like release this energy that you're avoiding.
yes,
And it's
incorporate
toxic,
it.
as you said. Yeah.
Say yes. Say, I accept this is a part of everyone. Right.
Mm.
So,
Yes.
and when
How
you own that part in yourself in a story, you allow the audience to own that part. And that's
Mm.
truly the transformational aspect of story.
Yes, yes. And how has teaching others affected the way you approach your own acting?
I mean, it's definitely, just so many illuminations about, you know, what we do as storytellers. I think like when you do start to try to communicate to another person, you know, a process and be support them because everybody, like you said, is so unique, so
Mm.
custom tailored that, and every story is too, you know, from 9 to 65 years old, from comedy to drama. Like, it's just, I remember I got a call from a friend of mine and she's, you know, coaching for the first time. And the story had like no dialogue. It was like guns and stuff. So it was like, move, you know, like moving through a lot of gun movement. And I
Yes.
said, "Okay, really? Like, this is a challenge." Right? And we just really walked through every single part of the story for her, making it very specific, making it very real for her, and, you know, it was great, it was amazing.
And I mean, how do you handle kids when you have to coach
Yeah,
kids? It's really
kids
different than coaching
yeah,
an adult.
yeah, I specialize in kids and teens, which is, you know, a lot of people will only, coach 18 and up. Just because,
Mhm.
like, it's about I teach from neuroscience. So, you know, a lot of people still teach from Stanislavski and Uta Hagen and Stella
Mm,
Adler,
yes.
which I studied at Stella Adler and NYU. You know, of course, you know, that's our history, it's our heritage. But we know a lot more about the brain and how the brain works since Stanislavski. I kind of give
Yeah.
the metaphor of like, you know how like suitcases used to not have wheels? Like, why would you still carry a suitcase without wheels? We have wheels now. So, yeah, so the brain of a 9-year-old is very different than the brain of a 13-year-old and a very different than the brain of an adult. So when I'm dealing with a teenager, you know, I know that they don't have a prefrontal cortex yet fully formed. And so the way
Mhm.
that I'm guiding them, the way that I can speak to them is a lot different than an adult who has a fully formed brain. And then with a child, I've really just, you know, I meet a lot of children and teens who have had acting coaches and they've been tampered with, you know, taking a beat and breathing this way. They're so confused by the time they get to me. And I just start to talk once upon a time.
Um,
And I start to talk story to them. And when I talked the story to them, they immediately get it because they just go into that.
you speak their language, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
you're in a palace, you're a princess, right? Your evil queen mother. They just start to switch right away. So it's amazing to see.
And do you think it's safe for the kids to be in this industry in a very young age?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, obviously, you know, it's necessary for anyone under 18 to have a protective force around them, you know, even not in the industry at all times,
Of course,
right?
yes.
I mean, they're so young, they're so influential, you know, they're so easily influenced, I guess that's not even a word.
Of
They're
course.
so easily influenced. And so it's really important for them to be, like I said, you know, protected, guided, given tools, practice in order to feel empowered, given the scripts that they can say if they feel uncomfortable. I think that's
Mhm.
important too, like giving them the words
Of
that's
course.
necessary, giving them the story to tell when they don't feel okay. This is what you say. I mean, I do this with my 3-year-old. You know, this is what you say. I give her the script. I have her practice it because you want to set them up for success and they're not going to just come up with the script out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Carolyn, another thing that I would like to ask you is like about the Me Too movement that changed the film industry. What is your perspective on that? Have things changed?
Um, I mean, I think that things have changed for sure. I think it was a big shift. I think that, I mean, have they changed everywhere in all forms? Did it completely go away? I mean, I don't know if it'll ever, go away completely in the sense of like, there's in the animal world, there's predator and prey, right?
Mhm, mhm,
But that's what I was kind of saying about giving people the scripts and, like you're saying, supporting and having that infrastructure in place. But I think there has been a very big shift for sure. Obviously, like there was very overt cases of, Harvey Weinstein was it was a very
mhm.
overt situation. Almost, I would say everybody knew about it. They knew he was a predator. They knew that this bad stuff was going on. So I'm really grateful that that kind of thing has been, brought to awareness. And at the same time, there's definitely a covert, more sly,
Mhm.
underground. And that's the more thing that concerns me is, people who are in a power dynamic or an age difference, and it's much more stealth. So I worry
Yes,
about that.
yes. And what is the biggest myth about success in Hollywood? What would you
Mhm.
say?
Hmm. I think, you were saying about, um, is in your one of your bios on your Instagram was like, it does fame and recognition make lasting happiness. And I think it's like, if you look at most careers, I mean, you can look at any old actor, that's now gone, passed away.
Mhm.
Like, their career had some kind of a peak, and then it
Yes.
had its denouement. It had its, and that's with actors, with athletes, typically the trajectory. So to be aware of that, it's like I think the smartest people are who have utilized the fame, the recognition as a platform to lily pad into a business or really utilized it as a way to enhance their life
Mhm.
and the people around them. I always talk about like it's creating value out of anything that happens to you.
And
Because
be prepared for everything, right? And be prepared at the same time for anything that happens because things change, right?
Mhm,
One
yeah.
day you're successful, the next day, you know, in a way you have to be prepared. You have to know that that is a possibility.
Yes, I always
I
say
know.
expect nothing, be prepared for everything.
Yes, yes, yes.
And it's like, yeah, Maya Angelou always said, if you don't pick it up, you don't have to put it down. In the sense of like, if your mission is to be a storyteller, then you'll be fine with the peaks and the valleys. Also,
Mm.
the writer of Eat, Pray, Love had a really good way of putting it too, which she said she had this huge success, Eat, Pray, Love. I mean, it was made into a movie with Julia Roberts, and
Yes.
afterwards it was like, "Oh my gosh, what like, can I do it again? Can I write another hit book?" And she said, "I really just had to come home to just
Mm.
like writing is my home, and that it doesn't matter whether another one is a hit. I'm gonna keep writing." And I think, as a storyteller, as an actor, as an artist, it's like the painter. Picasso, I always love the Museum de Picasso because you go there and you see his life's work. He didn't stop painting, he kept painting and painting. And I always reference him because when you go into the museum, you'll see this incredible painting of a woman, and it's so lifelike, right?
Mhm.
He knew how to paint, like, exactly match reality before he painted a woman in one line. And I always say that to my clients, like, you
Yes.
have to have a process and know what you're doing before you can there's the flexibility after you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Another thing, Carolyn, is when I talk with actors, they tell me that the worst period is when, they have they're working, but then there's this period of time that you're searching and, and it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard because you don't know if it's going to be for 1 month, a week, 2 months, 6 months. How
Mhm.
do you teach your students to be able to navigate through those periods of time?
Yeah, I think that's a balance of, like, I think you were also saying about, like, um, m balance of, like, your craft development and also your life development. I
Mm,
always encourage, my clients to also, like, keep living their lives. If I meet a client and they already have a like, side profession that they do, I mean, I think that that is amazing. Like, do it along both.
encourage them to, yeah.
Yes. I mean,
Hmm.
these life experiences of, I mean, everybody has their own choice in what they want to do. But, like, if you want to get married, get married. If you want to have kids. If you want to go to school, have school. Statistically, actresses who go to college do better than actresses who don't. So it's like, I'm saying live your life, evolve, grow. Those are the things, learn about investing and, real estate. Like, grow yourself and make your
Yeah.
life masterpiece. That's the thing that's gonna be lasting, right? Your life,
Hmm. Hmm.
your support system, learning lasts, growing lasts. Fame, like you're saying, fame and recognition, they don't. They have peaks and they have valleys. And so it's really preparing that foundation. And then in the craft, I would say, having a story that you work on long term. Bradley Cooper always goes back to working on theater. And a lot of great actors go back to working on theater because it's long term. They can go really
Hmm.
deep. It's a deep experience with a story. And that's something that really, I think, fortifies them in between those kind of more,
Periods.
yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
project, it's a high, you're on the set, you get off set, and it's a little depressing, right? It's like, okay, right? And so there is that moment I think that you do. It's like my husband when he's writing something, he finishes a project and it's like a little bit of, I can see him like dip down a little bit. And that's, well, I think it's important to honor that moment. Like, you finished it, and
Yeah.
it's kind of sad that it's over. And then you want to have your craft and your life there to support you, um, in my opinion. Working on news stories.
Sometimes that balance, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes it's hard to keep that balance because we're only human. I understand that. And if you could choose just one between acting and coaching, w- which of that would be and why?
Oh, between acting and acting coaching, that's I
Yeah.
mean, that's a challenge. I think that, I get such a fulfillment out of coaching actors that, I mean, I love acting. I think I'm just more particular now with, what kind of projects I would work on. And
Mhm.
because, I'm married, I have kids, and so there's only a certain amount
Yes.
of time. Whereas when you're single, it's like, definitely, go for it, travel the world and
Yeah.
experience life. And I think as you start to get a little bit, more grounded in your unit and your life, it's like I'd really just be more specific about what projects I would take on. Whereas with acting coaching, I truly feel like I could do it 24 hours a day and never
Oh,
get tired.
beautiful.
I also feel like I could do it for free, and I think, I was watching this woman on, the another podcast, and she was saying, she was helping people get out of financial debt. And she was like, "I get so fulfilled by this, like, I could do it for free." And I was like, "That's how I feel about acting coaching." So it's really a
Yes.
passion of mine.
Yes, I think that's a proof of how much you love it. When you can do something for free, definitely.
Yes.
Can you share uh, an experience in the film industry? Like, what was your most exciting experience that you can remember?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, either doing the TV show Agent X with Sharon Stone was incredibly thrilling. It was TNT, and we shot, on the Fox lot, and it was with Jeff Hefner and Sharon Stone. I got to work with James Earl Jones, Mike Coulter, just so many incredible people. And there's something special about going to the studio early in the morning to, get ready. And it was such a cool story. We had a lot of fun on that. And then I think the second would be probably Gray Lady, which was the film that I did with Eric Dane on Nantucket, just because is the difference between like a studio and an indie film. I got to
Mhm.
live on Nantucket for over a month, which is a beautiful little island, and so that was really special.
Yeah. And what personal fears or doubts have fueled your creativity the most?
Mhm. God, that's a great question. What personal fears or doubts? I mean, I think that, a lot of people, when they, in their childhood, we think about the top influences of a human being. Like, what are the major influences of a human being? And it always comes up mom and dad, right?
Yes.
Because those
Uh,
formative years, we spend a bulk of our time with our mother and our father or our parental figures, whoever they are. And that's the biggest influence on a human being. So I think the fears that come out of that are really core, like not feeling enough, not being heard, always serving somebody else, rather than yourself. There's a lot of those core fears that I think kind of is what people are trying to, I guess, come into resolution with within themselves. I think the closest thing in like therapy that I've ever found is what's called internal family systems. Have you ever heard of that?
Never. No.
So internal family systems is basically the same concept of there's these different parts of yourself within you. Like the 5-year-old part of yourself is still.
Okay. Okay.
So when
Yes.
you're having this like emotion, like you're an adult, I'm an adult, and I'm having this emotion about something in my life, to stop and go, okay, what
Mhm.
myself? Rather than looking outward and going, you need to do this and you need to do that and you need to do that and da da da, to stop and go inward and go, okay, what part of myself is talking right now? I mean, you can even use your hands. Okay, hello,
Yeah.
who are you? And then usually that part of yourself will start talking and go like, ah, da, 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 and you can kind of get a sense of what age that part is. And then as an adult, you can say, I hear you. I get it. That's frustrating. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. You deserve better. And what's a weird thing, I don't know why it works, but it works, is like that part of yourself feels heard.
Yes.
Quiet down. There's a
Mhm.
great woman on Instagram called Teal Swan. And what she talks about is like after that part of yourself is very important and can create a lot of value. But when it's, upset, it's kind of in the negative version of not creating
Yeah.
value. And when you talk to it and you hear it and you honor it and you see it, it'll start to switch to the more valuable way. And that goes back to like owning all of the parts of ourselves.
Mhm.
Sometimes we can't really like own that part of ourself directly, right? It's too challenging. So that's where stories come in. Stories come in as a way for us to experience parts of ourselves directly, indirectly, because
Yeah.
sometimes it's easier to go, oh, now I see when we're watching something.
Yes. It's easier, of course.
Mhm.
So in that way, looking back, what would you tell your younger self about courage and persistence?
Mm. I would probably tell myself, I mean, it's kind of what you said, which it's so easier said than done, which is like, don't take it personally. I think that's like one of the most challenging things is like,
Yes.
probably the most challenging thing is to not take things personally. I think it's like one of the 4 agreements. And it's something that is like, I think it's always like shifting your mind, and that's a challenge because you first have to be aware that you're going to shift your mind from the way that you're thinking about something to another way that doesn't feel as familiar, right? Taking it personally feels familiar. They've wronged me. I can't believe they did this, right? That feels like, yeah, that feels accurate,
Yes.
right? And then if I
Of
shift
course.
to like, well, they might be going through something. It probably doesn't have anything to do with you, right? I go like, that doesn't feel familiar. So it's like
Yes.
starting to like get yourself familiar with that space by saying this other way is not going to serve me no matter what, if it is about me or not. And I can take responsibility for if it's about me, right? If it is personal. Like if you don't
Mm,
get the job, you can take responsibility with how could I have done it better the next time? And you can do what's in your control to develop yourself and prepare yourself. That's it. It's kind of going back to that sphere of like what you can control and what you can't control,
of
right?
course.
Of course, you want to take responsibility for what you can control. And then beyond that, you do want to go to what's going to create the most value for me. And I'm going to choose to just think that this has everything to do with them because I've taken control of my and responsibility for my own partner. And if you're willing to have a dialogue, to work with somebody, to give reciprocity. If it's not a toxic situation, great. If
Mhm.
it's toxic, it's, goodbye. But
Yes. Goodbye.
it's really
Mm.
knowing yourself and how, what you're going to allow into your life and all of that.
And Carolyn, has the definition of success changed through the years for you?
Yes, for sure. The definition of success has definitely, I mean, I think when I started out, I was really wanting to learn about storytelling and how to do this, the to the best of my ability and getting so many experiences and really just focused on my own career, which was
Mhm.
great. And then I did get to a point where I did want to get married and have children, and that definitely shifted my perspective of what success looked like in my life.
Mhm.
Um, getting married, I guess it still stays a little bit the same when you get married, just kind of a partnership, but
Yes.
you still kind of do your own thing. But
Thing, yeah.
when I had my first child, that was like, I think it's a completely life changing moment where it becomes more than yourself. Right.
Mhm.
And that was like a big shift of what success looks like. I'm actually pregnant right now with my second. So that's
Hey, congratulations.
yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm super excited about that.
I'm sure. And Caroline, what kind of legacy do you hope to leave as an artist, a teacher, a person?
Yeah, I mean, the legacy that I want to leave is to give the world and all actors in the world a clear um, idea of the process that can get them the best results and give them. I always say I want to create value. I create value. I give applicable tools and get the best results. And I'm amazed when I meet actors and just over and over, it seems like it's 2025. We should have had a better understanding of this by now. So I'm a little bit shocked when they don't and acting teachers don't. So I just really want to give this revolutionary method based off of neuroscience to the world. And that's my mission because I think that it'll change storytelling as well. Because right now
Mhm.
we're turning on the TV and a lot of the times we're just changing the channel after a few minutes of watching a
Of
show.
course.
And the question
Mhm.
is, why is it not impacting us? Why is it not grabbing us? It's like we don't want to watch talking heads. We want to watch human beings in an alternative reality
Yes.
going through something and having an
Mhm,
experience
mhm.
so that we can go through an
Yeah.
experience.
Yes. We want to feel connected.
Yes. Yes. And there's been, it's been disconnected. There's been agendas. There's been a lot of other stuff that's kind of
Mhm.
led storytelling. Storytelling has been hijacked a little bit. And we need to get it back to what it was, which what I said, it's to, create community, catharsis, and to entertain. You know,
Exactly.
we want to
Mhm.
we go through our life, we wanna come home, turn on the TV, and go into another world. To forget our world for a minute, go into another world, and come
We feel
back, feel refreshed.
as you felt as a child, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Once upon a time, Snow White, it's like, ooh, it's
It's the same thing.
yeah.
It's only stories for adults, but it's the same thing.
I always say acting is a child's game played at an adult level. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that even people that are not interested in acting, that could use the methods that actors use in order to release that negative energy they have or to tap into their emotions,
I
you
have a
know.
whole slew of clients who are not actors. They
See,
see
yeah, yeah.
they see me,
Mhm.
they're, lawyers, they're, you know, other coaches, um, just, just a smattering of people who come to me to gain that insight and that, empowerment for themselves as well.
And maybe get away from yourself in a way. Step into somebody else's shoes and just, relax.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they usually have this aha moment where it's like, oh, wow, I think they think it's going to be one thing. And then it's exciting when I share, the process, like how it's a much more fun, exciting experience.
It should be fun. It should be
Yes.
fun.
Yes. It's not fun and you're not getting the
Yeah,
results to change something. Right. Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. So, Caroline, thank you so much for being here.
of course.
It
Absolutely.
was a pleasure.
You as well. You are beautiful and so
I wish
eloquent.
you the best.
Oh,
And to all of you, remember, ego was here. You were here. And that's enough.